I'm your host, Jason Tartick, and welcome to Trading Secrets. We talk all things money on this podcast, and we're teaching all the stuff we just weren't taught in the classroom. Nothing supports this show more than liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, we are joined by fashion and lifestyle influencer, entrepreneur, podcast host, and working mom of two, soon to be three, Dani Austin. Listed as Forbes top creators not once in 2022, but twice in 2023. Dani first started out YouTube dating back to 2012, where she would share fashion advice, wedding plans, and post the latest deals of retail brands around the country. Her innate ability to share her fashion knowledge along with her family life gained her a rabid following of Instagram and eventually led to her being able to start her own hair growth company, Divi, which has generated over $23 million in sales to date. We are going to chat with Dani about all things life as a working mom, her ups and downs, experiences on social media, and her entrepreneurial success story of starting her own company from scratch. Dani, thank you so much for being on Trading Secrets.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Third child on the way, and I saw you were at the MLB All-Star game. You were smacking away, chirping Terrell Owens. I mean, you got a lot going on while being pregnant. Congratulations.
I'm telling you, us pregnant people, we can have lives too.
Yes, it's unbelievable what you do, but you're an unbelievable mother of three. You're pregnant. You're killing it. Life is good for you. And I'm going to go back to 2012, but before I do, I got to start with this. I looked at your last three posts on Instagram. Your last three posts. One was from the MLB All-Star game, which you killed it. Another one was a mother skit, and another one was a family skit.
Yeah.
And those posts each had around 11,000 comments. I was like, this is insane. I then went to Justin Bieber's last two posts to put in perspective for my listeners. He has 14,000 comments, then 12,000 comments. So before we even get into your story, I got to put in perspective of the engagement. It's out of control. How are these many people commenting on your photos? What have you done to create a community that's this strong?
Yeah, it's crazy. First of all, I'm very appreciative for my community. They're kind of like family to me. I've been doing this for so long. I think you said 2012.
Yeah.
That's 12 years that I've been online. And so I think it's really special because I have grown up with my audience. Like a lot of them I knew before I even met my husband, which is so crazy. And so we go deep. We go back. When I meet people in real life, I'm like, girl, you and I, like we've done some life together. And so I think just having that timeline has been really special, but it really is so crazy.
You do a lot of like very relatable skits and very funny videos that go viral. When you talk about some of these people that have been following you back to 2012, have you also been very open with personal struggles and vulnerabilities that have allowed you to connect with them?
Oh yeah, so much. Whether it was like wedding planning, even dating, or even starting back when one of my first series when I started my YouTube channel was things I wish a sister taught me, because I didn't have a sister growing up. And so it's just like, you know, whether it was advice about how to study or dating or making friends, I've always been very open with my community like that, because there was like a phase in my life where I kind of needed that. And the internet was kind of one of the first places you could find that in like a super authentic way outside of your own friendships. And so I think I've just always been really open, kind of struggled with my community, been honest about my hair loss journey or being a mom of two and working and starting a business. So yeah, I'd say vulnerability, authenticity, all of that has always been like top of mind since 2012.
Since 2012. Okay, yeah. So back in 2012, and we talk a lot about different creators and people that made wild career detours to go into influencing, especially during the pandemic, 2020. 8 years before that, you were in the game. So that was just a whole wild place to be living. And at this time, you were around 19 years old when you started this, right?
I was 19.
So was there going to be another path forward with your career, or was the monetization in 2012 happening at such a fast pace that you're like, this is it, I'm staying in it, I'm not going anywhere else but this lane?
Right. So I went to school. I went to the University of Texas to go to physical therapy school. Okay. So I'm actually pre-PT, kinesiology. Not going to lie, I kind of always hated it, but I just kind of knew, okay, this is going to be my career path. This will be my backup plan. And then I was introduced to YouTube through my brother. But my brother has like a talent. So he had something to actually like sell or share. I was just like a 19-year-old, like awkward in my dorm room. But I saw that he had this like amazing community. And it's so funny because I remember making my first videos and I remember thinking, man, okay, if I become a physical therapist one day, I'll probably have my own clinic one day. And maybe if people see my videos, they'll come to my clinic when they need help. Yeah. Like literally that was kind of like my mindset. But then what happened was I started posting videos. I grew to like 100,000 subscribers within a couple months, which was like pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. And I was contacted by YouTube Space. Are you familiar with YouTube Space?
I am. But
they don't really have them anymore.
Yeah.
But
they have like one in LA and New York, right?
They have one in LA, but they're run differently now.
Okay.
But at the time, they had this program where they allowed, I think it was like 10 influencers to come out and use YouTube Space. This is basically like a playground for content creators. I mean, they had like Red cameras, they had studios, all like the state-of-the-art equipment, editing bays. You know, I'm just like using like my little tiny like Canon camera in my bedroom. Like this was insane. And so you were able to use all of that for free. Not only that, but they would also set you up for collaborations. They would help you collab with other influencers, other creators that were part of the program. And in fact, it was a priority. Like you had to do 2 collabs a month to grow your channel. And so I submitted some videos and I was accepted. And I told my parents, I'm like, I got to go to LA. Like I'd never stepped foot in California. I'm like, I got to go. I'm like 19 years old. They're like, absolutely not. You're finishing your degree.
Right.
You got to get an internship. You got to get those hours. But I just like had this feeling. I was like, I don't know. I just feel like this is the way that things are going. And to speak to monetizing, my brother and I were not like monetizing, making like thousands and millions of dollars. There are some creators that were because they were getting like such insane views, but I'm getting like 100,000 views a video. Like that's not enough to like really pay your rent. But I just had this feeling. And so went out there every summer and ended up signing with a network just for a year, interned for my manager out in LA, like learned the business side of the industry, met so many people to collaborate with. And ever since then, like, yeah, I had the PT degree, but I was like, this is what I want. Like, this is where I'm like, I know that I got to strike while the iron's hot. And there's not a lot of people doing this. There were no girls in Texas creating content. And so I just had this feeling, kind of went for it.
Unbelievable. 12 years later, Forbes 2023 and 2023 and 2022 top creator. But let's go back to then when you make that move. Talk to me about the finances. Like, do you have a certain amount saved up? Did your parents give you the like ultimatum of you got 6 months to a year and we'll let you do this? Like, talk to me about, because I think a lot of people listening to this, where they struggle is they want to take shots. The issue is having the money saved up and then the pressure they get from their family or a timeline to do it in. Did any of that exist back then?
Oh yeah, of course. So my parents told me, when you graduate from college, you are not allowed to move back in. Like, you have to figure this out on your own. So I did not have like that type of cushion, and I wouldn't say my parents were like super supportive of the situation either. You know, they had a son that was a musician and then a daughter that like wants to be a YouTuber. When my brother went to school for finance and I went to school for like a doctoral program, like it was not ideal for my parents. The first year that I graduated, I was making less than $20,000 a year after like taxes. With
creating?
Yes.
Okay.
So not a lot. I was living in downtown Austin. I actually applied for like affordable housing. But I will say the craziest thing was like my lifestyle was kind of free because I started doing collabs for like free makeup or free products or free food. I hung out with all the food bloggers in Austin. So I got free meals all the time. So I wasn't like stressed about it because I didn't have a lot of expenses. I sold a lot of my clothes, or I would go to TJ Maxx and like buy things full price and then sell them buy them on sale, then sell them full price on eBay. Like I was big on eBay.
Some side hustles going.
Yeah, I had some side hustles. I started like a little jewelry business to just like make it some extra cash to pay for my equipment once I wanted the equipment. But a lot of like the lifestyle was like for trade. So I feel like I looked like I was like making money, but I wasn't.
So what year, well, you go back to 2012, you're hustling the eBay sales, which I love. That's so cool to hear stuff like that. At what year did it start to pop? Were you like, whoa, I'm starting to make some significant amount of money. I'm breaking 6 figures a year.
Well, I'll tell you this. It doubled every year, and it still like does.
So right now, if you look at 2012 to 2024, your earnings in this whole industry are highest now than they ever have been.
Yes.
Wow.
And now I feel like we've diversified in a way where now it's not just like all through influencing, but yes, each year it would kind of double. And then I remember in 2015, maybe 2016, when I moved back to Dallas and I started doing like the blogging career, I remember calling my dad and saying, Dad, I made as much as a doctor. Are you proud of me yet? And he was like, yeah, but how long can you be doing this? Like, doctors have degree, they have some stability. And he was like, that's great, but what about in 5 years? And so I think that's what always kind of kept me on my toes of thinking, okay, I got to diversify. Like, I can't just be creating content and relying so much on brand deals.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that whole take in this space, because the older generation, right, the boomers, the Gen X, they look at it like, it's a flash in the pan, you're out the door, go back to a structured 9 to 5. So they conceptually don't understand it. And then on top of it, there's also this like somewhat of a negative connotation with that demographic of like, you're an influencer, right? Like, so what exactly are you doing and how you're doing it? And I think so often about the identity crisis, that you've done so much, you've earned so much, you've made such an impact, you're making people smile every day, or you're inspiring them. But there still is this identity issue of, are people proud and do they respect what I do? Do you feel that?
Oh, 100%. I have to tell you the funniest story. So I just played in the MLB Celebrity All-Star game.
Yeah.
They're going through the roster, and you have Terrell Owens, you have Deion Sanders, you have Tiffany Haddish, like these really famous people. And they've done amazing things. And they're going down the list, and they're introducing everyone. And then they get to Dani Austin, influencer. And I swear to you, like, I heard in my head people booing. And after the game, I went to my husband. I'm like, were people booing me when they introduced me? And he was like, no. Like, what are you talking about? I just like was so convinced that people were like upset that there was an influencer playing in the game, because it doesn't have the same amount of respect as like an actor or a comedian or an athlete. And so absolutely, I think just being in this industry also for so long, like I've gone through so many brands telling me, no, like we're not going to invest in you, or that's not good enough, or we didn't like your performance, that I feel very humbled like throughout this whole experience. And so it's very hard to ever kind of accept the fact like, oh my gosh, like we did it, like we're here, just because it is one of those things that's taken some time for people to respect.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting place to be. It's one people I feel like battle with a lot. And a question I have for you is, do you ever find yourself trying to pursue another career so that is more of the title? Like, have you ever thought like, I'm going to go be an actor, or I'm going to go be a host, or I'm going to go, get into comedy, be in stand-up comedy? Have you ever chased a different title so that title could live instead of influencer? Or are you like, this is who I am, even though I'm hearing boos in the crowds, I'm owning it and I'm going to crush it? Which area would you say?
So I wouldn't say I chased anything for the title. I am obsessed with what I do. Yeah. I have loved it since day one. In terms of security and for my family, yes, I have chased some backup plans, whether it's investing in properties, whether it is investing in other businesses. Like that's more just security also for like my mental health, knowing that, hey, like if one day you get canceled or you say the wrong thing, which like God forbid, you never know. Sure. Like that we do have a backup plan.
Okay. Amazing. I love that. One thing I want to talk about is the blogging. You already referenced it. So the DaniAustin.com, just like for people that don't know, talk to me about the business of blogging.
Yeah.
Like, so how often are you posting, and then how do you actually make money off blogging for those people that don't know?
Yeah. So I'll talk about kind of the transition from going from YouTube to blogging, because it was so different. And to be honest with you, I don't think that I saw like true success until I picked up blogging. And I don't blog as much anymore because things, they changed so fast. But at the time, this is like 2016, 2015-ish. So YouTube I was really heavy into brand deals, which means you're just waiting around in your inbox. Yes, you're doing some outreach and you're trying to work with some brands, but this is so early on that a lot of brands didn't even have like legit marketing budgets. I would get on the phone and talk to like the head of marketing for a brand just to get a free product. And they'd be like, no. Like,
How
and
things have changed.
I slowly kind of switched to blogging, and Instagram came out. And this is when I decided I wanted a little bit more control, and I was going to start really focusing on my conversion rate. So I wasn't so concerned about brand deals because I started doing like affiliate sales. And it was crazy because when I made this shift, like I started to understand my audience in a totally different way. Like now it wasn't so much about brand awareness and serving, like, yes, of course, like you're serving these brands, but I'm like, I got to serve my community. Like I got to give these people exactly what they want. Not only give them exactly what they want, but like give them a good deal, get them to come back, like actually do something that, you know, inspire them in a way that throughout that day, like they do something because I encourage them to, whether it was make a purchase or try a new tip or trick in life. Like it was just a totally different mindset. And that's when I really started to see like success with my community and really started like connecting with them. So blogging was more about conversion. And that's whenever I also became like obsessed with the analytics, like who's watching me, like what do they like, what are they buying? And that's kind of like the trick behind blogging, because you get access to a lot of that too.
Yeah, you get access to the insights, and you're writing in a way that could be persuasive or influential, and then people will click and buy, and then you will be paid once and if they click and buy through your blog. A question I have that I think that could connect to anybody back home is you have to then write, and you have to write in a way that makes people engage to it. So whether someone's writing an email or writing a text or writing for their next job that they're trying to get, what are some different tips or tricks or tactics you would use in your writing to get people to stay engaged to it and then actually click on it?
Yeah, a lot of my blog posts were very personal. Like it was whatever was going on in life, but then I'd be like, this is what I'm wearing while I'm going through this, or this is the book that I'm reading. But my blogs were also heavily photos.
Okay.
So every single one of them, like I would have a photo shoot for every concept. So whether it was like, here's 7 books that I'm reading this summer, like I would hire a photographer and come, like they would come over. I would have like this whole set, all the 7 books, like make it look pretty. And do the whole thing. And then when Instagram came out, it was almost like you could have these little mini blogs or mini like videos on Instagram. So that's whenever I really transitioned to like really focusing on Instagram. Instagram stories was everything for me. Like that's where I still probably carry out maybe 85% of my business when it comes to influencing, because
Still today.
Yeah.
Interesting. Tell me why.
So it disappears every 24 hours, which I know is so frustrating. Like, don't get me wrong. But that, I almost treat my everyday like a little reality TV show. And I'm like, okay, what are people tuning in for today? And I know it's going to go away, but I feel like that's what makes it so authentic and real. So everyone knows that I post everything in real time. Like, I'm not going to go to the Celebrity All-Star game and then post 3 days later.
Yeah.
Like, they get exactly what they want, like, in that moment. And I've trained my audience to know that. And then as I'm going throughout the day, I'll say, okay, these are the sneakers I ran in, or this is the mascara that didn't wear off whenever I was crying in the stands because I was so scared, you know, whatever it is. And so Instagram stories really allowed me to be myself, not to like overthink it. I was so sick of like editing and production and like everything being just such a show. And I think Instagram stories, it was like people knew, like it was raw, it was real, and it was like instant.
It's interesting because one of the things I have found with Instagram stories is that they take a lot of effort because you're doing it every day, but it's not working as it relates to growth as far as engagement and social media followers now, because and I want to be correct, you're the Forbes top creator, so you coach me here, but like TikTok, obviously people were blowing up from exposure, and it feels as though just recently Instagram has kind of made that shift where they want long form, they want short form, they want reels, and reels are now getting to non-followers quicker. And so I feel as though stories, the 3 ways to make money off stories are you own your own business, you have affiliate links, or you're just getting excuse my language, just a shit ton of deals through Instagram stories because of link clicks. Do you agree, disagree with that?
Definitely agree with that. Okay. Things have changed a lot. I'm on the TikTok. I'm posting reels 3 or 4 times a week. I definitely felt that. But I would say the one thing I would maybe disagree with is that's where you build like a really authentic following, I think. Okay. So maybe it's not as many, but it's like if it's 20% of your audience that's seeing it, but they're like your diehards, like that's all you really need. Okay. I don't really need like millions of views on things. Like I don't really care about so many views. Like, I care about the people that really, really care. And I feel like I've been able to foster that relationship the best through Instagram stories.
Okay, that's really interesting, especially when conversion was a lot of your main business focus for your blog. If you can then convert these people and have a high conversion rate, then it doesn't technically matter how many people are watching as long as they're engaged with you. Let's wrap up the blog scenario of your life. So for people that are interested in blogging or used to be very, tuned into bloggers, where do you stand with your blog? And do you think that the future of blogging has kind of been disrupted by everything else and that business is turned down and it will eventually go away?
100%.
Okay.
I think people consume content so differently. Like, I have not posted on my blog in quite some time. I think it's a great resource to have. Like I said, I'm really big into diversifying, and we have a podcast, we have TikTok, we have all the different channels. It's going to take a lot for me to ever put like all my eggs in one basket. But no, I think people consume content so differently now. Like they want short form. You can't even make your video like over a minute these days. I know there's like a resurgence of YouTube, which I think is really exciting. I personally wouldn't probably go back to the platform anytime soon, not because I don't see potential in it. It's just I have a lot of things I'm juggling, especially with having a third baby on the way. But no, I think people are like they're wanting video content. I don't think a blog is enough for them these days.
Okay, so from the blog in its heyday, your YouTube channel, TikTok, and Instagram, of those four, rank them 1, 2, 3, 4 in 2024, which is producing the most revenue and business impact for you?
Instagram is number one.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
TikTok, I feel like we can get it there. Like I'm confident if we put some more time and effort over there, it could be equal.
Okay.
It's just that I've built my audience on Instagram. And my Instagram, they're like millennials. Like they're taking a long time to transition to TikTok too. But I know, like I'm very aware, like if I want to acquire like a new audience, like that's going to be through TikTok. And so Instagram, TikTok, I mean, the blog is like not even really a thing anymore, which is so crazy.
Yeah.
But then, Instagram stories too.
Very cool. All right, we are going to get into your business here very soon, Divi. So if you are interested in small business creation, stay tuned. It's coming. What I'm curious about on the Forbes top creator list, 2023 and 2022. First and foremost, I think it's really cool that you were in the industry for 10 years before you were even recognized with that. It also puts in perspective to anyone out there, like just keep fighting, keep grinding. Your time to shine will definitely come. But how does that happen? Does Forbes find you? Do you have to apply through like a PR marketing firm? Like when I hear Forbes lists, I'm always curious, how do they actually get in touch with you and what does that look like?
Yeah, they emailed us and I thought it was spam. Like,
no way.
I literally screenshot it. I go, babe, I think this is a joke. He's like, no, that looks like a legit email. So yes, they reach out to you. They ask for all of your credentials. They ask for your numbers. They want to make sure everything is legit, your tax returns, everything. And so yes, then I was introduced to like the Forbes community, and Forbes is really great because I feel like they take care of their people. Like once you're in, you're in. And so then we started getting invited to events and panels. And then we were asked again for 2023. It's crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
2-time. Congratulations. I'm always curious, people at that level, what is the production process look like? What is the behind the scenes? How often are you planning content in advance? Like you hear all the stories with Mr. Beast, how he like lives in a home and his house has whiteboards everywhere and he's constantly thinking, works 24/7. We had the apartment guy on and he told me his literal work schedule is when he wakes up and when he goes to bed, and nothing but work 7 days a week. So everyone's got their own thing, but behind the creative genius, like what does your production look like? How often are you filming? Do you have a strategy for how often you want to post things like that?
Yeah, so I'm filming every day. I wake up at like 5:30, I do my workout and I film my workout. So I'm filming up until 5 o'clock. I have a very strict like 5 o'clock, no filming. That's more because it's like family time. I didn't start that until I had kids. I used to just film till like midnight,
Good for you. So you say after 5, no filming.
Yeah.
That's a good boundary to have.
I mean, we got to do it, especially with maintaining your marriage, being a parent. Like it's so important. So I have a very strict like 5, I'm not working anymore. That's why people never see me like in the dark or like after dinner time, because that's like our me time. And then I've been better about not filming so much on the weekends. But yeah, I have a big whiteboard. We have a famous whiteboard that like we think of all of our crazy ideas. We probably like, you know, it depends on the season, but I would say we do like a crazy stunt like maybe once every other month. So I've done like crazy, like a big talent show where we gave away $20,000 and I had my audience apply, and we rented out this big studio, and we kind of like bring in our community, had this big competition. We did a remake twice of The Bachelor for my brother.
I saw that.
Yeah. So like that was like a big thing where, I mean, I'm probably spending, you know, $30,000-$40,000 on these big stunts, and like I'm not seeing anything in return. I'm not having sponsors. I'm not like, these are just big moments to engage my audience and get people involved. And those are the moments where I feel like I probably like grow the most is whenever I'm just like pouring out. But these things are like big productions. Like we go all out.
You hear Mr. Beast talk about it quite often, how he'll spend $2 million on a video and he'll make less on that video or not even make $2 million. And money to him, he's like, I don't care. Money's just a resource. He's like, it comes in, it goes out, and I just keep spending. I challenge myself so much to look at things like that, but I'm such, with a finance background, it's so hard for me to do it. When you're spending 20 to 30 grand on a video, talk to me about what the business perspective is. What you're not getting an ROI on that video because it's not sponsored, but do you think you get the long-term return on it? And if so, how?
100%. I think that there's a long-term, I think people know that they can come back to me for entertainment, and I know that they can like trust me that I'm going to provide for them, and things aren't going to get like dull around here. So I like to keep people on their toes. And so I know that I have to do these big stunts. And like, I don't know, I feel like I have more of that mindset like Mr. Beast too, where like I don't really care about the money. Like I just want to create really cool things. And so if I feel really cool, like good about it, and I'm excited about it, then I'm like, that was worth it. That was like totally worth it. Like who cares? That'll come back in another way somehow. And I don't even know how to like always measure it, but it's just like this feeling that you just feel like, man, we did something great. That was awesome.
If you had to guess, how much is the most you ever think you spent on one stunt?
I've done some pretty crazy things for Divi, like where, especially starting out when we didn't have a CEO and we didn't, like, it was just me and my husband. And like, I probably over $100,000 on an influencer trip where I invited people that weren't even influencers. They were my audience, and I just treated them.
Oh, cool.
So our first influencer trip, I had people that had written like really nice reviews or really good feedback. Like sometimes they weren't even like fans of maybe they were just like giving me advice of like what I could change or what I could do. And I invited probably like 12 people that were just customers, and I went all out and treated them like influencers. So I got all these brands, I sent in products, I sent them to, we went to Cabo, stayed at the Thompson. Like, you know, when you see these like crazy influencer trips, like I did that just for like our community.
Wow.
And so that was one of those things where I was like, I told my husband, I'm like, we're not going to have an ROI from this. Like, it's not going to make sense on paper, but this is like the type of brand that I want to have. And this is what I'm really excited about. And so, no, I don't think there's a way to measure it, but it's something, it's like I have this confidence and I feel really good about it. And maybe it makes other people feel good too.
Yeah. Interesting. It's such a creative way to think about executing business. And clearly it's working, right? If your revenue is doubling each year and you're at your highest point, like whatever the creative genius is there, that's not so pragmatic like me, maybe, it works. It's cool. I got to ask you though, someone who was a former Bachelor contestant, when you guys did this twice with your brother, you know, you created the whole series of dates, you did everything. Landon gives his final rose to one lucky lady. You know, you obviously had to go into producer mode, kind of like a Bachelor producer mode. So given the fact you've done it twice, what are some things that you've learned as a producer trying to run the business of a mini series of The Bachelor as more of like a play on it?
It was wild. Like when I tell you, so I also like, we do everything in real time. So I'm not sitting on this footage for days. Like we're editing all night, pulling all-nighters. We go out, we film all the dates. We go back home, my husband and I are like, and we get the video out like the next day. It was so crazy. So the biggest thing I have learned, I think the hardest thing I've decided like investing in that was important was production team. Like, because I've always filmed and edited everything myself, it's really hard for me to say, oh, it's worth it to pay this guy to film my content and to edit. Like, is he going to actually see my vision and know exactly how I want it like the rounds of edits are going to take so long. I might as well just do it myself. But what I've learned is that like I'm not a genius. Like other people can do it too.
Yeah.
And so it's just about finding that right person. And that's probably the most painful part is slowing down enough to hire, because you want to just keep going. But when you slow down and you train people and you find the right fit, like it pays off tenfold.
Yeah. Something I got to work on. All right. How did you go about finding the actual women that were participating in your Bachelor show?
We had people submit videos.
Oh my gosh.
So I was also like going through and sifting through all of these women, choosing them personally. My brother would like try to peek. I'm like, no, this is me. I mean, half the reason I wanted to do it is because like, I was like, this girl's gonna be my life for the rest of, like, I need to like her.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was really hoping it would work out. But no, my brother is engaged now to the most amazing person. You know, it's true love because I had nothing to do with it.
There you go. That's how you know. And I heard that you enlisted some people from the franchise, including Chris Harrison and other to help. How did they play a role in the whole entire project?
Yeah, they were amazing. So supportive. Hannah G, Tasha, Jed Wyatt came and performed at one of the dates.
Oh my gosh.
Like I went all out, and it was so cool to see how supportive people were. Like my story views were over 1 million views. Like people were so excited about it. It was wild.
Okay, I was going to ask you about the numbers behind it. The reason I was going to ask you the numbers behind it is the Nelk Boys actually did a similar project to you for this season of The Bachelorette that just happened, a few weeks ago. They got over 3 million views on the YouTube project that they did, and that is almost not double, but it was 1.9 million viewers is what ABC on TV streaming on Hulu got. So the Nelk Boys.
Wait, I've always wondered that. So you said 1.9 million viewers for like an episode of it? What do you mean?
So they'll monitor after 24 hours of the episode being premiered on ABC, they will monitor how many viewers they had. And so they had 1.9 million viewers watching the show.
Okay.
And what's crazy, especially with the context of this conversation, social media, is these Nelk Boys guys who probably spent, 1/1,000,000th of what ABC spent. They got over 3 million views in 24 hours of releasing their play on the project. So I'm curious, how many views, obviously it's not within 24 hours, but do you know how many views you got on your Bachelor project?
So I'm looking, I put out 12 videos for my brother's second season of The Bachelor. The first one I see got 1.2 million views. So, I mean, altogether, probably over 10 million views.
Wow. I think that also is, this conversation's a lot about social media. It's just changing. Like, I think you're seeing social media now create more power than some of the biggest networks and the biggest TV stations and the biggest streaming platforms. And that, to me, is just a crazy, crazy thing that's happening. Do you think this might be part of your future content, like being a producer of possibly TV shows?
I've always thought about that because then we did the talent show and people loved that. I have some other like really crazy ideas that I really wanted to do this year, but then I got pregnant. And so it's like, so yes, like things, I definitely have some big dreams and some big stunts that I want to do that are similar. It just might take me a little bit of time, but yeah, absolutely. Like I love the shock and awe factor. Like I love doing anything that's kind of like a little quirky.
That's a good transition. Vulnerability, we know, is the root of all connection. Congratulations again on being pregnant, but you've also been very vulnerable in sharing kind of how you've dealt with stress and even hair loss when you were studying at University of Texas, which inevitably led to your business, which is unbelievable, right? That you look at something like a struggle that you endured, then created a problem, which led to a solution, and the solution being your business. So for anyone out there that's feeling a problem, that's not hair loss or whatever it may be, once you identified the problem, where did business come in and how did that start?
It was very organic. So I started losing my hair in 2019 was like the big year where I woke up, looked in the mirror, told my husband, I'm like, I don't even want to leave the house. Like, I'm so embarrassed. And so my husband was like, well, why don't you just wear wigs? Like the Kardashians wear wigs. And I'm like, babe, we live in Dallas, Texas. Like, where am I going to get a wig? He drove me to my first wig shop. It was like a costume store, like $20 wigs. I was so discouraged, but ended up flying out to LA, got my first wig, named her Kim, decided that year, I was like, I'm going to figure out like what is going on, like get to the root of this. And like I said, I had a background in kinesiology, biology. So I understood like the basic systems of my body. So I actually started putting together like my own serums. Like I was like a little chemist in my bathroom. And as I'm going through all of this, I'm sharing it all on YouTube. So I'm like, I got this ingredient, a lot of natural ingredients, but at the same time, there were some ingredients I couldn't get my hands on. So I told my husband, I'm like, I want to meet with a chemist and I want to create this scalp serum that women can use long-term, because minoxidil and all these other ingredients, like, yes, you can use it and they work, but actually like long-term, they're not good for you. And they have some really harsh side effects, especially for women. So had that idea, really honestly was just like, I'm going to launch this for my community, because as I was sharing it, there was like this hidden epidemic of women that were also losing their hair that like nobody was talking about it. And so had that full intention, came out with our scalp serum. The first year we did 40 million. Like, it was crazy.
What?
We are just have 33 million just on the scalp serum alone, or from D2C like alone. I'll tell you why it popped off and like why it did so well. Yes, I share with my audience, but it grew so fast, like beyond me, because of the before and after pictures that people started posting, and they started sharing it with their own audiences. And I think when you go through something that is so emotional and personal, when you find something that works, like, people want to take care of their community. Like, they want to take care of their neighbor or their mom or their friends postpartum, maybe COVID hair loss. Like, they're excited to share, like, oh my gosh, like, this worked. So when I launched it, I told my husband, number one thing, I want this product to speak for itself. Like, I don't want to be pushing this all the time. Like, I want the science to be so legit that it works. It's like, it's something that can grow beyond just Dani. And so that grew really fast. And like, my husband and I are literally working out of my unborn son's nursery. We hired our first employee. And from then on, like, it was more just listening to my audience of like exactly what they wanted, but at the same time creating this like scalp regimen for people, because it was the first time that people were really focusing on their scalp. And it's, for a lot of women, they're using products that are like, just, you know, all this stuff is like sitting on whether it's dry shampoo or hair product, just sitting on their scalp, like blocking their hair follicle. And so they needed something that could detoxify, stimulate, cleanse, nourish, but also like get the job done. And so from then on, it was just listening to our audience. I was at Ulta with my daughter. She was a year old. I was pregnant, and I'm like walking through the aisles, and I'm like, Stella, wouldn't it be so cool if mommy could be at Ulta one day? Like, this was an Ulta by Target. So it was like a little Ulta inside of a Target store. And I like record my daughter. I'm like, do you think mommy can do it? I think if mommy works really hard, we can do it. A couple months later, Ulta reached out, and They wanted to carry Divi. And so that was just like the craziest experience. They have been the best partners. And since then, it's just been like one little, you know, win after the next.
When you started the company, and congratulations, when you started the company, did you guys self-fund it yourself, or did you raise capital?
We still own it 100%, and
Wow.
we self-funded, yeah.
And how much money did you have to put into the business before it took off? Because I would assume like you're hiring a chemist and all these like things. Like, I feel like that's a pretty big research and development bill.
I want to say over 500.
Okay, so over 500,000. You then launch it, and you do 40 million the first year.
Yeah.
That is absolutely unbelievable off one SKU.
I was shook still. Yes.
And what year was this that you released it?
This is 2021.
Okay. Also probably a really good time. Like, you think about timing, right? More people are at home. They're paying attention to this stuff. More people are buying online.
It was a great year for D2C.
Unbelievable.
It was a great year for D2C, but I'm also really thankful that we have like great retail partners, because things are changing a lot for the D2C landscape.
It's changing a lot. How did you keep up with the production, manufacturing? You know, you're doing this in 2021. There's so many supply and demand issues because of the pandemic, and you're able to move that many units. Like, where is your manufacturer in the United States? Talk to me just about like the business concept of going from putting 500 grand into a company and boom, 40 million, and managing that growth. That's so hard to manage that growth.
Well, first of all, we started really small. Like, we only have like 5 or 6 SKUs. So we don't have a ton of SKUs. And I launched with like a hero product. It was just scalp serum. And yeah, it was really frustrating, like creating our second and third products. But I will say, I knew exactly what I wanted going into it. And I knew exactly what ingredients I didn't want, like the innovation that I was like really passionate about. So we've always had really great partners on the manufacturing side. Keeping up with demand is something that is so frustrating for me. Like, we're always sold out. And even at Ulta, people go to Ulta all the time and we're sold out. It's a great problem to have.
Yep.
But that was something where I really had to like pull in my husband because I was so frustrated about that side of things. But we also hired a in-house team of female chemists, scientists that help us. Yeah, so they are like super innovative, so much smarter than I am. Our head of production our head of product development came from Nutrafol. So she's super knowledgeable about the industry. So I have like a really great team around me now that like I just focus really heavily on product development. Like that's what I get really excited about.
Amazing. You look at a company like Amazon, it's almost $2 trillion market cap right now. Their entire business though was literally built on not being profitable, reinvesting it all at a 40 million clip of gross margin. Is it a profitable business too? Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say of all the projects you're doing, like influencing, podcasting, blogging, this has been the most lucrative?
100%, but it's not like we see it, like we put everything back into the business.
Yeah.
So it's not like I see it.
You just constantly reinvesting, right?
We're constantly reinvesting.
Yeah.
So we funded the business through my influencer career.
Correct.
So, and I still have to run that in order, not for Divi to run, but just for like I have a personal team too.
Of course.
So we're kind of running like two separate businesses at the same time. But yeah, it's like 100%.
What's wild is your business was built on being an influencer, being paid by brands. One of the biggest business moves you've made was creating a product and then letting it grow and move in the way it is. A full circle moment that brings this question to light. Are you now paying influencers to influence your brand?
Oh, yeah.
What do you look for when you're paying for influencers? Like there's so many out there, so many people that want to be in it. What are the things that you're like, that's a good fit? This is how I know it's going to make sense for our ROI, things like that.
A story. Like a story is everything for me. Like I really don't even care about views or like conversion is important, of course, but I just really want the story to make sense for the brand because I know for a fact that people can see through it if you're just trying to hire the hottest and greatest girl out there. So as long as like the story makes sense for them and they're excited about it too, like I just want to work with people that are excited about Divi. Like I don't want them to feel like they're just being hired to like make a buck.
Yeah.
Like I want them to like love our product. And so, but to be honest, like, yes, we hire influencers. Our influencer is like very successful, but to me, it's like, and I know this sounds so cheesy, but like our true influencers like are our community and people that use the product that just share it with their neighbors. And so like, that's where I feel like we see like the greatest ROI is investing in our community. We have a program that I launched in 2022 that I was really excited about. It's our scalp specialist program because when you go through hair loss, like the first person you go to is your hairstylist. Like a lot of our hairstylists know more about us than our husbands.
Yeah,
like you tell them anything, you cry to them. And so I wanted to make sure that our hairstylists were empowered and were educated about scalp health and like knew what our products did and felt, empowered to help these people out. And so we have a scalp specialist program that will probably by the end of the year, we'll have over 1,200 scalp specialists where they actually earn a certificate. They do a class. We give them special codes. We give them commission. Like they really feel like they're a part of like our Divi army and are helping carrying out our message. And so that's one of the things that I'm like really focused on growing is that part of our community.
Amazing. With some of the successes also comes some challenges. You had mentioned in your first year that you did 40 million. In the notes I had, maybe they're incorrect, but it's in 2022, you guys achieved $23 million in sales. You had also alluded to the fact that, D2C via social media has kind of changed that landscape. Has the revenue of the business gone down because of economic climate?
No, we will like 3x our revenue this year.
Damn.
And by 2025, our CEO, I'll tell you this because he keeps telling everybody this.
Yeah.
We are on track and projected to do over 100 million.
Oh my gosh.
So no, what happens for a lot of startups or businesses is that second year you experience so much growth that you have to take a step back for a second and hire the right team and make sure that you're like actually on the right trajectory.
Totally.
So one of my next products was hair vitamins. And that's not the most like profitable product to launch. Like, in fact, I think a lot of mentors would have said, you probably should go into something more attainable like dry shampoo I didn't care because I was like, I want to start with a hair vitamin because I want to have our legitimacy. And like, I don't care if it sells. Like, I don't care if we have a down year. Like, I want people to know that I am invested in the science and the efficacy and the clinicals. Like, that is the most important thing to me. And so, like I said, I'm like, I'm not in this to make a quick buck. Like, I want this to have longevity. And so that second year was more about getting our ducks in a row, hiring the right people, figuring out our systems and processes. Like I said, we're working out of our nursery. We recently bought an office building. We're building that out now. We hired our CEO about 6 months ago. Like, that year was more about restructuring.
Okay. Unbelievable. Congratulations. That's so exciting. Last thing I kind of want to touch on is there was some news about some criticism that Divi had to experience because of a shampoo and conditioner product. We've heard a lot of the successes. I think it's also good to hear about some of these areas that you have setbacks and you got to learn from. So can you speak a little bit as to what happened here and then how you guys overcame it?
Sure. So our first shampoo and conditioner, we call it the OG. People love the formula. The conditioner was a little heavy for a lot of people's hair. What's so hard is everybody has different hair types.
Totally.
I have very thin, curly, fine hair. So for my hair, it was amazing. But if you have thicker, fuller hair, it maybe was a little too heavy. And so to me, there's nothing to be ashamed of. For me, I was like, okay, I want to talk to these people, meet them face to face and hear what they're saying. And so I invited all of our negative reviewers, not all of them, there were probably 20 that came to our event. And I got to meet them face to face and say, hey, thanks for giving me some feedback. And they were nice about it. They weren't evil about it. They said, hey, I bought this. It didn't work for my hair type, was kind of bummed. And so met them face to face, said, hey, I hear you. I'm going to work on it. So then we launched our volumizing shampoo and conditioner and kind of fixed and tweaked those things for that audience. And so I love hearing people's feedback. Sometimes it hurts because, it's your baby and it's I'm not going to lie, but I feel I want people to know that I'm listening and I'm willing to change and follow my sword and be like, hey, I messed up. Let's try this again.
Unbelievable. From $20,000 just trying to make it in the whole influencing space to Forbes top creator to now a company that is on its way to break $100 million in gross revenue. It is fascinating. It's unbelievable. Something we can all learn from. But we got to wrap with the trading secret, Dani, something that is special to you. We can't learn it from a professor, a TikTok tutorial, only through your experience. So what is one trading secret you could leave our audience with?
Man, there's so many, but I would just say having integrity with every decision that you make, whether it's hiring or going to a meeting or things that you say behind the scenes, just having integrity and also just remembering that even though it's maybe an influencer business or maybe it's all a service. You're really serving other people at the end of the day. That's all it is. And so just keeping them top of mind has been really important to me.
That's great. The two trading secrets I'm taking from you. One is stop being so focused on ROI.
I know,
put your money into the story and then see where the story goes. Because I'm such an ROI guy, especially being a finance guy. So that's one. And the second one, I think with you, all of it is storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what led to your increase in following. That's what allowed you to take your blogging and increase conversion. That's what allows you to tell your story on Instagram highlights. That's what's led to a business that it was a before and after, which is what blew your business up, the storytelling. And I think everyone back at home, whether it's you with your boss, it's you with your partner, you with your friends, whatever you're doing, it's storytelling that allows people to understand the A to Z. And when they understand it, they become so engaged to it. And when they're so engaged to it, they can then even buy $40 million of product in 1 year. It's unbelievable. Dani, where can everyone find everything you have going on? Your companies, your social media, A to Z, where can they get more Dani Austin?
Yeah, so you can find Divi at every Ulta or diviofficial.com. We're also launching at Ulta by Target on July 18th. You can find me on Instagram at Dani Austin or TikTok at the Dani Austin. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on this. This is really fun. I don't really talk too much about the business side of what I do. And so it's nice. It's really fun.
You should. I mean, it's really impressive what you've done. I think Forbes is going to have you 40 under 40, not for creator, for exiting this business for $1 billion. And then also your podcast, right? De-Influence, right?
De-Influence,
check out De-Influence. I'm actually going to go be a guest on De-Influence right now. So make sure to give that a download. And Dani Austin, thank you for being on this episode of Trading Secrets.
Thank you for having me.